Today on Podcast Them Down, it's a time when dinosaurs roam the earth. Podcast them down. I don't have my soundboard. All right.
Oh, you're gonna do it in post?
Yeah. All of this is gonna be in post.
Wait. Can we try it? Can we try to sing it? Podcast them down.
And then Doug does the voiceover.
I'm Tim Regan from U.S. power metal band Burning Shadows, Dual-Violin band ISENMOR, Mid-Atlantic's best Metallica cover band Fade to Black, and recently Graves True Zombie Metal. You're listening to Podcast Them Down.
All right. I'm leaving that in.
That should just be the regular intro.
All right. Today I'm joined by Matt and Doug. And we're going to talk about what some people have called the worst Maiden song of all time. And I say those people haven't been listening to every Maiden song. But still.
I also might argue that, in fact, it might be the worst song of all time. So why just restrict it to Maiden? But yeah. So the idea of this episode was we were going to do a segment on historians ruin your favorite metal songs. As some of you may know, I'm a historian by training and by trade. And we were talking about various songs we could ruin. And then when Quest for Fire came up as a candidate, we had to immediately jump on it for reasons that will become very obvious.
And it sounds to me like it kind of snowballed, didn't it?
Well, I mean, that's a good word for it, since this takes place allegedly during the Ice Age. Not that you would know that from reading the lyrics or listening to the song Quest for Fire. So, I mean, I honestly don't even know where to begin beyond just stating my unending rage for this song. And as I've learned, both the film and novel that it's based on, both of which have my unending enmity directed towards them.
Yeah, I'm trying to find my notes. Naturally, I can't.
Oh, my God. If you ever want to ruin, let's say you have a $20 bill that you want to use for a purpose that you just hate. Like if you're the masochistic person, you want to fin-dom yourself. Why don't you purchase, as I have done, Quest for Fire on Amazon Prime, and then you can watch it wherever you go.
Oh, you mean the movie?
Just so I make sure we're calibrated here. Do you also hate 10,000 BC?
I actually don't hate 10,000 BC. No, I don't hate it. I think it's a fun and interesting film, for reasons that we'll get into, I'm sure, today on Podcast Them Down. See what I did there? Yes. But 10,000 BC. Well, wait, Doug, are you talking about the original 10,000 BC or the 2008?
I'm talking about the Roland Emmerich one.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, yes, I do hate the Roland Emmerich one. Not as much as the Quest for Fire. I guess the original one is 1 million BC. That's the Ray Harryhausen stop motion dinosaur picture. Maybe that's what I'm thinking about. But yeah, 10,000 BC. First of all, I mean, I don't want to get on a whole 10,000 BC thing, but 10,000 BC is during the time of Egypt. I mean, it's not a time when we're fighting saber-toothed tigers. Perhaps no, not even in goddamn North America. Anyway, maybe is there a 10,000 BC metal song? Maybe we can go on that too.
I don't know. Someone get on Metal Archives.
I feel like accepted something. Maybe that was 200 AD. Yeah, whatever.
Maybe I should watch 10,000 BC again. I mean, I'm a fan of Roland Emmerich. Ronald.
He's very good at shitty good movies.
Yeah, I mean, he made some of my favorite films, like the 1998 Godzilla.
2012 is the greatest socially irresponsible disaster movie ever made. Like, they should have just stopped that whole thing then.
That's true. I mean, that is true. And who can forget Independence Day Resurgence? But why don't we get to this? Why don't we get to the Quest for Fire? Because now we're getting sidetracked.
Now that we're 5 minutes in, I think I finally got set up. So, Quest for Fire is a song from Iron Maiden's 1983, album Peace of Mind. Peace of Mind, people likely know because of the a lot of the singles from it: Where Eagles Dare, Revelations, Flight of Icarus, The Trooper, a song I hate called Die With Your Boots On. Yes.
This album has so many good songs, but isn't actually all that good.
Right.
It's interesting.
This episode is just full of metal blasphemy. So, Quest for Fire is track 7, or the third track of side 2, if you own the vinyl. And the songwriter was, this may come as no surprise to Doug that it's Steve Harris. So.
In post, you need to put in the gasp sound. Yeah.
Okay, well, when I remember to put it in post, it's going to go right here. All right. It's been put in.
Shocking. Oh my God.
So I just got to diverge for 1 second. So Maiden has announced a new album called Senjutsu, which has that terrible first single that is just literally that Disturbed video, except double the length and bad.
Right. It didn't do it for me. Like,
but,
I see a lot of people defending it, but you wouldn't be defending it if it wasn't Iron Maiden, in my opinion.
No.
I mean, I can't wait to tear apart Senjutsu on another episode of
here's the only reason I bring it up. There's a 9-minute and 31-second song on it. I believe Steve Harris is the sole credited writer, called "Lost in a Lost World."
Lost in a Lost.
Which, since it's a
Steve Harris, chorus is going to be.
Yeah, since it's a Steve Harris song, the title's the chorus
of the song. Yeah.
Lost World.
He doesn't always miss, though, because he's the only writer on Where Eagles Dare and The Trooper and many others. But he also can put out some stinkers. So.
Yeah.
No more tears, or no
more lies.
That's it. No, yeah.
The chorus is that 64 times.
It's verse, chorus, 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 chorus.
It's the Guns N' Roses formula.
So, according to a link I got from the enlightening discussion on the Iron Maiden subreddit with the heading, "Is Quest for Fire really considered one of Iron Maiden's worst songs?" And the guy reads something from the Song Fact website, which I clicked on.
I have that too.
It has some of my favorite facts. Like, vocalist Bruce Dickinson found the lyrics to this song so funny, he kept laughing through the recording session and couldn't record it straight, which Steve Harris did not find so amusing.
Yeah, so the I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall. So the song is inspired by French-Canadian director Jean-Jacques Annaud's 1981 movie Quest for Fire, a cinematographic. If that word didn't come out right, it was the audio compression. Adaptation of the novel of the same name by J.H. Rosny in 1909.
Fun fact, that's 2 people. They're brothers, and for some reason, they're so ashamed of their work that they write under the name J.H. Rosny. It's just just confusing. I don't know why. Maybe because they're like turn of the 20th century French guys. But yeah, it is not there.
All right, so the story of the book, the movie, and the song is of the struggle of a prehistoric tribe to regain the fire that had been lost. The story of the book and the film depicts the loss of the precious fire by a tribe of early hominids after a fight. They become once again lost in the middle of the land where great predators roam. One of the volunteers goes to find another fire. Quest for Fire relates his adventures.
Yeah, so many. Where to begin? One, if you enjoy sexism, racism, and Ron Perlman, you will love The Quest for Fire because it features all three very prominently. And bad pseudo anthropology, also great. It's just the worst. I read all these great anthropological takedowns. Everything from their phony baloney made up language to the way that the various human hominid groups look. It's just the film itself is just everything wrong with the way we view human evolution, like in a microcosm. The only part of it that I think is interesting is the fact that people were able to maintain this long enough to produce a film. Like, how did you not just storm? If you're Ray Don Chong or Everett McGill, how are you not? I mean, I understand Ron Perlman's got to eat. He was Hellboy, for God's sake. But, how are you not just walking away and saying, you know what, this is a bunch of shit, isn't it?
Well, back to the song real quick.
Back to the song.
Back to the song. The song loses me like right away because it's the first verse is, in a time when dinosaurs walked the earth, when the land was swamp and caves were home, in an age when prized possession was fire, to search for landscapes men would roam. So already there's dinosaurs and people living together.
Okay.
Song was written in the early 80s.
Okay. I mean, let's try and get past the first lyric today. Okay. So according to the premise, and there's actually like a title card in the film A Quest for Fire, that it's roughly 80,000 years ago. The book Quest for Fire gives a much more generous 100,000 years ago. But I should mention that even in the 1911 Belgian fantasy novel, there's no dinosaurs. But for some reason, Mr. Harris here has decided that dinosaurs are roaming the earth because that's a good visual. But that it's just so incalculably wrong that and I just like want to take some time to illustrate how wrong that is.
Is this set before? Yeah, it would be before the aliens visited for the first time, right?
Certainly. What?
Wait a minute.
Wait a minute. It depends on what aliens you're talking about, because as we know from Doctor Whom, the dinosaurs were taken away by the Saurians. So clearly it's not. But I'm not sure entirely. So here's what I thought, just to prove how wrong this is. So let's pick the oldest historical event you can think of. Like just name it. Like what's like, try and think like the oldest datable event.
The discovery of fire.
Well, no, that's not a data.
I
When
want to say
they put them paintings in the caves.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, when they put them paintings in the caves. All right, so let's get some cave painting dates, right? Okay, so the famous cave art is Upper Paleolithic, roughly between 40,000 and 14,000 years ago. So we're going to take the most generous date. So we'll say 40,000 years ago, right? Okay, 40,000 years ago. So think of how long that is, like the time between now and 40,000 years ago. You got it? You got it. It's a pretty damn long time, right?
Right.
Multiply that by 1,625 times, and that's how long since the last fucking dinosaur died. We can go from cave art to now podcasts, cave art podcasts, almost 2,000 times. And we'd just be getting to dinosaurs, end to end to end to end to end to end to end. End.
I do want to highlight again, this is Steve Harris's contribution to this story.
Now I know what you're saying. Matt, birds are dinosaurs. And yes, birds are dinosaurs. There's dinosaurs when I look out the window. There's dinosaurs chirping on the windowsill.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe you're taking this too literally, that first line.
Well,
because the source material was just woolly mammoths and prehistoric mammals, right?
So you're saying that Steve Harris is like a hominid, like a biological genius, and he's pointing out that birds are walking the earth. So I guess there's like an ostrich or just a chicken, right? So it's a totally
there's some chickens roaming the earth.
Well, in that case, it's a totally helpless lyric. It doesn't situate it anywhere because it could be literally any time for the past 200 million years. Within the last 200 million years. That doesn't help anybody.
Well, years is easier to rhyme than some of these words.
Yeah. That's true. We'll get into that. Okay. All right. So that's that. And then we get into when the land was swamp and caves were home.
So this is the second line of the song.
This is the second line.
All right.
When the land was swamp.
Yeah, everything was a swamp. Haven't you seen Land of the Lost?
Well, that was, I believe that was another dimension, technically.
But hold on, maybe that's where the song takes place.
Or this takes place in like a parallel universe.
Yeah.
That's arrived at by falling down a rapid.
And they're wizard men that look like that high school production.
But we have no indication that this is like a parallel universe. We just have a sense that it's a when. It's a when. It's not a where.
Yeah, it definitely specifically says when dinosaurs walk the earth.
Yeah, the earth. That's true. I mean, maybe it's like a Marvel multiverse, but we know how unsatisfying that is.
Well, just like the Star Trek alternate timelines, which we will get to in a few years, I'm sure.
Okay, so, all right. First of all.
So are you trying to tell me caves were not home and the land wasn't swamp?
Well, I need a moment to unpack the land was swamp before we even get to the caves were home, because that's a different thing entirely. Okay. You don't. I mean, this is like a Star Wars thing too, right? But planets don't just have one biome, like the notion of a desert planet or an ice planet or a water planet. Like these are kind of dumb notions, right? Like planets are big, and if it's a life-sustaining planet, there's usually gradients and changes. So yeah, were there swamps in Paleolithic Europe? Yeah. There's swamps in current Europe. We're not situated in Europe, but I'm assuming this is Europe based on the source material. But yeah, were there swamps Sure. Is that anything particularly instructive? No. Again, that just means like there's bodies of water and drainage. And so this is totally unhelpful. It's like saying, oh, like in a land where the sea met the beach. It's like, who cares? This is just another fact about the surface. Like glaciers, yeah, glaciation. That would be a cool thing to mention here. That might actually give some stakes, you know, when the glaciers reached to London. Oh wow, okay, now we got something to talk about. When Stockholm was under 15 miles of ice, yeah, okay, fuck yeah. Now we're really thinking about some things. There's no Neanderthal fossils in Scandinavia. Why? Under ice. Okay, but this tells me nothing. This doesn't help me at all. I don't know anything here.
What I'm taking away from this is there are no Neanderthal fossils in Scandinavia. I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's ice shelf. Ice shelf. Ice shelf. Okay. So let's go to the second half of the second lyric. Caves were home. Okay, what are we to make of this caves were home?
Cavemen.
Cavemen.
You know, like
excellent.
Again in Land of the Lost.
Excellent observation. Now, caves are great natural places to stay. If it's storming, if you need to get out of the elements, you go to a cave. We know ancient people lived in caves. We know modern people go into caves. Caves are a great place to escape the elements. But you know what's different between caves and other stuff? Let's name some things that we could build a house out of. Wood. We can maybe out of animal skins. Mud. Yeah, mud's a great one.
Straw. Sticks.
Straw.
Bricks.
Sticks. Bricks.
Yeah, one of those is wolf resistant. Which wolves are mentioned later.
Wolves are mentioned. I mean, that was knowledge that they needed. They needed to get to.
Woolly mammoth bones.
Yeah, bones.
Oh, there you go.
Hey, there you go.
The
Great
rib cage
bones.
of a woolly mammoth.
It's just down in the.
Right.
Okay, you know what all those other things do? They all decay. They all decompose. So yeah, we know humans lived in caves, but they weren't always living in caves. They were just living in stuff that decomposed. So like, yeah. Were people going into caves? Do animals go into caves? Sure. Yes, they do. But it's only the fact. It's like a fact of things in caves get preserved that don't get preserved when they're out in the open getting rained on, getting flooded with silt from said swamps. You know, so to say humans were living in caves again is just mischaracterizing humans. These are people who are just as intelligent as us, just as clever as us. Would you want to live in a cave all day? Like, can you see in the dark? No, you're only going in a cave when you have to, or because there's some reason that sends you in the cave. Like, you know, all these cave paintings and things, these could be ritual places. These could be like the churches of ancient peoples. But just because there's shit in caves doesn't mean we're living in caves all the time. So that's another thing that's just totally just like, oh, they were so dumb. They lived in caves. They were smarter than you. Could you kill a woolly mammoth? I don't think so. You can barely download this podcast. Your computer did it for you.
I'm going to be educating myself on YouTube later tonight because I guess my assumptions had never been challenged on these subjects before.
I mean, there was a great the history of the study of early man is great because it really just like brings the racism of the study of history to a T. So, for example, for a long time, Eurocentric scholars argued that European ancient humans were much more developed than African ancient humans because there's all this cave art in Europe and there's very little cave art in Africa. But you know what?
Let me guess.
Places where go ahead.
There's no caves in Africa?
There's no fucking caves. So how can you have cave art and there's no caves? It's like, oh, well, these people didn't eat carrots, so they're clearly not conscientious about their eyes. Do carrots grow there? The carrots don't grow there. Then what are you arguing about? All right,
where do they get them diamonds?
All right. I mean, I guess that's a good counterpoint.
How about there are fewer caves in Africa?
There are few. There are actually some caves in Africa, and you know what's inside of them?
Drawings?
Cave art. Cave art.
Oh.
Yep.
Hey, I was right.
Well. Okay.
I'll add a ding and post here. All right.
Yeah, this episode's going to need a lot of post.
Yeah, we'll see if I actually do it.
All right, line 3.
Jeez, we're going to need a few hours for this one.
In an age when prized possession was fire.
Okay.
I've noticed in this song that there are lots of missing articles, which puzzle me. And I'm honestly would like to think that Steve Harris just wrote out these lyrics on like a napkin, and Bruce Dickinson just refused to sing anything except exactly what was written. And we'll get to that more when we get to the chorus. Okay, so yeah, fire is important. I concede that fire is a very important and useful thing. I think this is a little late. I mean, the earliest reasonable date for human control of fire is 1 million years ago. And that means it's not even Homo sapiens. It's not Neanderthals. It's Erectuses. So that's like, again, many generations before we even got here, just as far like from us, and that 40,000 years, double that and add half. And that's what we're talking about. So
are you telling me the entire premise of this story about men and dinosaurs and stealing each other's fire is flawed?
I mean, there could be I am sure there was a period of human history in which some groups knew how to control fire and some groups did not. And fire is very important, not just for warmth, which we'll talk about, but there's other reasons that you want fire. So I imagine there's certainly a time somewhere at some point where there are differing hominid groups. Some of them can control fire, some of them are not. You could imagine a situation in which one group is trying to steal or gain the knowledge that this other group has. Sure. I would think that it happened much earlier than 80,000 years ago in Europe, just from our evidential use of fire. And I would also like to point out that that's a very conservative, my 1 million years is a very conservative estimate for use of controlled fire. There is some evidence that it was 2 million years ago. We honestly don't know when hominids started controlling fire, but it was a long time ago.
What does the historical record have to say about the missionary sex position?
Well,
that came after Christianity.
No.
Because it's called missionary, weren't you?
What? It was. That's true. But this is okay. There's this guy named Desmond Morris, and he's a zoologist, right? Okay, and he was the anthropological consultant, anthropological in quotes because he was an anthropologist. He studied sea squids or something. So he was like a popular BBC documentary armchair anthropologist and wrote all these books on human behavior, most of which he just kind of made up. But he had this whole theory of human sexuality that was basically just big macho guys and submissive women. So his whole theory, that whole thing, is about different sexual relationships between the various levels of humans, and it's a bunch of garbage. It's all made up and it's nonsense, and yeah, it's all based on garbage.
The more you know.
Na-na-na-na. put that in post too.
Right. I'll put it in right here.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Next line.
Next line. To search for landscapes men would roam.
I thought dinosaurs were roaming.
Yeah. Well, no, they were
no,
walking.
they were walking. They were not.
They're
roaming.
walking. But
Right.
men are roaming.
The men are roaming. Yes.
I mean, yes, humans would roam around. This
That does-
one gets a pass. Give it a ding.
Right here.
It does kind of indicate that maybe dinosaurs are in their last legs. So that he compressed time a little bit, but man,
I like that Doug's being the Steve Harris apologist right now.
well, like Steve Harris, I also don't know anything. So it comes easy. Except what's in the movie, apparently.
Like Steve
barely
Harris, you
remember.
also don't age decade after decade.
That's true.
Steve Harris might be a vampire. I mean, it wouldn't.
Maybe
surprise
that's
me.
why he knows all about this.
Yeah, because he just remembers what it was like.
Yeah, so, right. I rescind my comment about Steve Harris not knowing anything. I'm making some assumptions.
He knows.
Yeah,
And we have evidence that challenges said assumptions. So I'm going to.
He just knows so much. He's kind of flustered, right? He doesn't know which century he's in. Okay.
Which explains the new album, too. Oh, we should redo the intro now. All right. Let me do it right now, and then I will cut it out.
In a lost world.
I'll cut it out. I'll put it at the beginning. Here's the new intro for this episode. Today on Podcast Them Down, is Steve Harris a vampire? Podcast. All right.
Can you just leave this part in the episode though, and then it'll be like a fun temporal loop?
That's what I was gonna do.
Nice.
I'm not doing any of the post-production stuff.
So
Maybe
the next
worst thing I've ever put my name on. My first name.
next
Let's save it.
stanza.
All right.
The next stanza is pretty good.
Okay.
Again, I'm not sure stealing fire works. I was trying to think of the mechanics of stealing fire.
Ow!
Yeah, there's a couple of problems here. First, okay, well, why don't you just steal like a flaming brand from the fire, right?
I'm picturing like a torch or something.
So just to step back for the viewers, so the premise here is these competing tribes, at least one of them possesses fire, but they don't actually know how to make it, right?
Yeah, and I mean, a premise of the film and the book is that there is a tribe that knows how to make fire. There's at least one that knows how to make fire, but these other human groups walk around with stupid fire containers, kind of like fire basket things. So if
I've seen
for example,
Bear Grylls do this though.
Bear Grylls does do it, right? But if you want to move somewhere, you gotta keep your little fire tinder basket thing, which I'm sure human groups do. I'm sure that makes sense. But it seems to me, number one, I would have more than just one, because the whole
more than one
plot-
fire.
Yeah.
Why don't you
The whole
put a
plot of
fire
the
near
movie-
your cave? Put a fire farther away from your cave.
So we don't consider the notion of redundancy fairly advanced, rational, scientific thinking.
Redundancy.
No. Redundancy is something that I think humans have done for a long time. I think one of the first things that humans learned was how to be redundant. I mean, you don't just see one spear and everyone's using the same spear. You see humans making things. You see humans doing things. And another thing that we don't appreciate, I think, is just how boring life was. I mean, there was literally nothing fun to do. So you may as well make another firebox, because what else are you going to do?
Doodle some pornography on your cave wall.
I mean, that's assuming you even have objective symbolic knowledge. I mean, that seems a lot more difficult to develop. These are lines of female breasts, right? That is actually a fun thing. Is there's a big debate over these ancient fertility statues and things, whether or not they're just like pornographic images, because they have very exaggerated sexual characteristics. So people are like, well, these are clearly like somehow related to like fertility, because look, like all the sexual organs and things are super big. And then someone was like
Throck the perv's secret whittlings.
It's like it could just be the product of a perv. You know, we know humans are pervs, and we've been pervs. We know our closest ancestors and cousins, like chimpanzees and orangutans, all pervs. So it reasons that possibly human ingenuity was made for perversion just as much as ingenuity.
All right, so this stanza we've been talking about.
Okay, so I can say possibly, maybe. We don't have evidence of this, but it's conceivable. Again, I have some problems with the conceptual ability to steal fire. I mean, I think the much easier thing to do would just be kill everybody and take the fire, right? Just raid their camp. And then you're not just like running away with the fire, but taking their, tools and children and all kinds of like things that are useful to have around. And if you look at the way that that human groups live, like we're really good at being shits to each other. So this kind of image of like running into the camp and stealing a flaming brand and running away seems
they were scared of them wolves.
I mean, they were scared of them wolves, and it's a good reason to have. That's a great reason to have fire too. It like scares predators away.
Gets rid of bugs.
But why mention the wolves if that's not exactly what happened in this particular circumstance?
Well, I mean, there were wolves, and I'm sure they howled. And some of those wolves' babies got, probably stolen and or like just got abandoned, and then they were picking up, baby wolves, and then they become dogs. So that's fine. I mean,
and it happened the other way too, right?
Oh, you mean like I who domesticated who?
Yeah, wasn't that what that whole Tarzan thing was about?
What? Like Tarzan,
someone raised by wolves.
The Edgar Rice. No, that was Mowgli. That was Mowgli in the Jungle Book. Yeah. So.
So that's not part of the record either. Now.
That's not part of the record. That's a Rudyard Kipling book.
All right. So the tribes fought a bunch, and one of them saved the power of their warmth and light.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess, but here's an important thing to think about. Like, warmth and light are important reasons to have fire, but there's also other important reasons to have fire. Number one, fire cooks food. Now, you could say that's when I read warmth and light, I just think of like the immediate, like it's cold, so we need a fire, and it's dark, so we need light. But fire is like really good for other stuff, right? It like hardens wood, so you can like make better spears. And we have evidence of wood hardened tools all the time. Like you can make spears, and you can make awls, and you can make all kinds of things with hardened wood, right? You get smoke, and you get ash, so you can like decorate yourself. You can like make cool things. You can make cool decorations. You can make tattoos. You can make pottery, right? You can like bake things, so you can like make something out of clay and bake it. So there's all, I think this is a very cheap and underappreciated use of fire. Like fire is great for a good number of things. Oh, did I mention cooking food? Yeah, cooking food. Because you know what? Food's hard to do. Fucking eat. Have you ever tried to like go into nature and just like pick stuff off and eat it? It's really hard. We have like no teeth anymore. Like we don't have big fucking molars or like incisors or things that can like tear shit apart. Why? Because we just threw it in the fire, and then we can like take a bunny rabbit and throw it in the fire, and take a couple walnuts and throw them in the fire, and all of a sudden they're like delicious to eat and easier to eat, and and we don't have to spend as much time doing other stuff. You know what? Even if it's kind of off, even if we find like a dead bunny or like some slightly poisonous acorns, we can cook them and magically all of a sudden they become edible. And by edible, I mean eatable.
All right, so we're finally at the chorus.
Yep.
All right, drawn by quest for fire, they searched all through the land. Drawn by quest for fire, discovery of man. So he only puts the song title in here in the chorus twice, which shows great restraint on Steve Harris's part, in my opinion.
It does. And I mean, I will be honest. Drawn by quest for fire. There should be some articles there, either definite or indefinite, but that's fine. They searched all through the land. Sure. Drawn by quest for fire. Okay, we like choruses.
If there's a fire somewhere, isn't it easy to find?
Yeah. Right?
You just wait till night, look for it, and if it's during the day, look for the smoke.
Again, which begs the question of like stealing fire. You're gonna catch the guy. There's literally an easy way to find the person who stole your fire, which why I believe you're talking about murder and just taking all their shit rather than just like stealing their one flaming brand there. Okay. Can someone please explain to me the next line? Because I have been trying to figure out what it means and I don't know.
And which line is that?
Discovery of man.
All right, so that's either men discovering something or something discovering men. What's unclear about that?
Well, both cases seem wrong to me. Okay, premise one, the discovery of man is fire. That seems to make the most sense, right?
Yeah, but I
think
that's what it's intended.
But man didn't discover fire. At all.
They're just
like
stealing it from each other.
Fire is literally just a process, right? So like there has been fire for billions of years, right? Like as long as you have like oxygen and an ignition source and sufficient heat, there's fire. I imagine there was fire well before even the population of like animals from the land. When there was just plants, I'm sure there was fire. If there were just like methanic vents, I'm sure like a methanic vent, a thermal vent, and a lightning strike could have caused a fire. We don't even need life for there to be fire. So it can't be a discovery of man. And animals are aware of fire. Like animals know what to do. So if you're saying like fire was a force that was blind to all creatures until man developed its intelligence, no, that's bullshit. Because if you light a forest fire, all the animals aren't just like looking around. Even like insects, like as far from us as we can imagine, will fly away. If you like go find a ladybug, get a cigarette lighter and try and move it close to the ladybug and see what happens. You know what it's gonna do? It's gonna fly away because it has discovered fire.
Well, discovery of ladybugs doesn't rhyme with searched all through the land.
Yeah, and also they're English, so they would call them ladybirds, which is another topic for another angry day. So I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means at all.
Well, to use the language of the day, it seems kind of like an inflection point, calling out evolutionary development. Though, in all fairness, this song makes no reference to the revelations of the movie.
Right. It's not a good synopsis of the film, which isn't a good thing to begin with. So luckily, even though we've only done the first 3 stanzas, we've already covered more than half the song. because this chorus is just repeated many times, and there's only one more real verse to deal with. So bear with us. We're almost done on our quest for fire here.
Quest for fire.
Quest for fire.
Hey, there's an Iron Maiden song title.
Quest
It's a
for
sequel. Yeah, it's like Back in the Village.
Right.
We should write them. We need a Quest for Fire sequel.
Tim, I think we need to tack on a bonus song that we'll figure out after this. Let's get through Quest for Fire.
Okay. All right. Next stanza. And they thought that I mean this next couple of lines are fine, right? They thought that when the embers died away, that the flame of life had burnt and died. Well, I mean, that's true, I guess. Sure, I can imagine people believing that fire is a living thing and that it dies. And I guess in a very non-metaphorical way, when there's no more embers, a fire is dead. So sure. They didn't know the sparks that made the fire were made by rubbing stick and stone.
Yeah, that's how you make a fire. You take a stone and you rub a stick on
rub
it
a stick.
until it sparks, and then you have fire.
So I mean, it goes.
I hate to invoke his
I'll
name
let
again,
Matt
but this
speak
is
to
I've
the
seen Bear
science.
Grylls do this.
But
Rubbing-
just coming at this from the perspective of dramaturgy, this should really be at the beginning of the song. It's setting the stage. Had we known that, some of the events in the previous stanzas might have had more meaning.
Yeah,
That's a fantastic point.
I agree.
Yeah, so you just take a stick, everyone try this at home. Next time you find a stick and a rock, you rub them together, you get sparks, and then bam, you have fire.
And again, like the fire in the film, and I believe in the book, is like this simple, like kind of like it's not actually a bow drill, but it's just like the friction, like rubbing a single stick against a plank. There are many. I will admit there are many ways to make fire, but I feel like these two lines are infuriating because, first of all, it's like, what a dick. It's like they didn't know that you. Well, I mean, let's get on the fact that that's a very impractical way to make fire. But like, well, didn't they just know that? It's like, fuck you, dude. They're like, we've already established that there are people trying to kill them. There are wolves after them. And like, do you think they have time just to sit around and be like, well, I wish I knew that. It's just like, it's just so infuriating to like, again, this trope of like our ancestors were stupid. It's like this like progressivist, like us humans now are the smartest humans, and like humans in the past were much dumber because they didn't even know that they could like rub sticks together, or stone is somehow involved. It's like, no, actually, I don't know. I couldn't make agriculture. I couldn't domesticate a wolf. They did. So maybe give them a little more credit that this shit is fucking hard, and maybe don't be so like pedantic and dismissive of literally the people whose survival necessitated your existence. Maybe show a little goddamn gratitude and respect.
Yeah, he's robbing them of their dignity.
Yeah. I mean, these are humans, right? And even if they're not in like our direct line of descent, they're still related to us. We should be high-fiving them like fucking bears aren't doing this, or our woolly rhinoceroses. We did it. Our squad, right? So we should rep that.
I also just noticed this verse breaks the rhyme scheme. So
So it wasn't even like...
Yeah, it wasn't even like an awkward thing to force a rhyme. So here's an exercise for our 4-year-old preschool age listeners. Which one of these doesn't belong? Home roam, night light, beasts heat, and died stone.
Oh my...
It doesn't work. All right. So have your parents take a picture of your work. This is still for our preschool listeners, and email them to podcast them down, and we'll give a prize package to the winner.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right.
Including a copy of the 1911 Belgian novel in the original French. Hopefully there's some French kids who apply.
All right.
Okay.
Matt, do you or should I do the rant on cannibalism?
Oh, I think.
Don't read ahead.
Go ahead. Well, okay. So we're almost there.
All right. Well, let's get there then.
So they plowed through the forests. I mean, I thought the land was swamp, but there's forest now. And swamp.
Well, the fire must have dried up some of the forest.
Oh yeah, and then
the swamp
trees
and made
emerged because trees are very resilient to fire, and swamps of danger. And they fought the cannibal tribes and beasts. The cannibal tribes. Go ahead, Doug.
Well, apart from very isolated circumstances, and basically not at all, there's no evidence of cannibalism in the historical record. And I think even Matt, maybe you know more about this, but in the prehistorical record too, it's either we assign it to people, we being Western Europeans, who we want to kill or enslave, or it is retroactive misinterpretations of journal entries, logs, things found hundreds of years ago that draw connections to things that never happened. And there was, in the time in which we can assemble any record of history, basically no evidence of any culture where cannibalism was a common practice.
Yeah, I mean, there are like I think like the idea that there are like tribes that specialize in cannibalism especially is problematic. There certainly are cultural situations in which humans eat each other. But strangely, very few of these are exogenous, right? So even those situations where humans eat each other like regularly, and by regular I mean in very specialized situations, they can either be grouped in the group of like bare survival, like there is nothing left to do, or like ritual. Perhaps, there's someone with some certain power or prestige in the community, and on his or her death, the community might consume their flesh, right? But the idea that there are people who specifically seek out other human groups to eat them, one, compared to other prey animals, humans aren't that nutritious. Two, as we know, there are all kinds of potential dangers of eating humans, which it strikes me as obvious that over the long time of human history, human groups would figure this out. And human groups that were practicing this kind of opportunistically would probably realize we shouldn't do this. But even in rare cases where other primates engage in cannibalism, it's still as threat display. It's still as, something other than regular nutrition. So the notion that you wander into a tribe and it's just a big rack of skulls, that means they're badasses. That means they killed a lot of people, but it doesn't mean that they necessarily ate them. And moreover, like cannibalism is more often an accusation than an actuality. Like,
that's right. It's one tribe accusing the other to the neutral missionary.
Right. Those dicks are cannibals, so you should give us guns because they'll eat you. And then later, when that whole other group is massacred, and the last one is like, why did you give them guns? We just grow corn. And they're like, our bad. We should have asked you first. So there is cannibalism. Humans do eat other people and other parts of people, but very rarely predatorily. It's often ritualistic or bare subsistence.
Yeah.
And it's much more scary as like a thing people do in our imaginations than in actuality. Now, do we want to give Steve Harris the benefit of the doubt and say maybe this is like the perception of the people questing for fire? Maybe, but I don't think so at all. It's just another like racist, anachronistic, like disrespectful trope about our ancient human ancestors. And who knows if they would even consider them human? That's another thing. Like, how do human groups, again, humans are assholes, like we know that human, like Homo sapiens and Neanderthals and other human groups coexisted. Weirdly, they're gone. And we also know that we're assholes, right? And that us modern Homo sapiens are the best at being assholes because we won. Woo!
Go team.
So, go team. So, you know, we know there's interbreeding, but how do we actually like imagine this? Is there like, would that be like us seeing a particularly sexy chimp?
Yeah.
Or are they close enough where like, yeah, you know, like if there was a Sasquatch around, like I often imagine like the movie Harry and the Hendersons, if you've ever seen that, like Harry is much closer to humans than like a chimpanzee. So like, might someone have fallen romantically in love with Harry in the film? I mean, it's a Disney film, so probably not. But I mean, I don't know. There's lots of ways genes can get in the gene pool.
So what was the age of majority back when they were questing for fire?
Well, probably 12 or less. I don't think they had laws, or at least not laws like. Well, they didn't have language, so.
Law number one: don't steal my fire.
Didn't have writing. Not writing. They might have. They probably had language.
All right. Well,
some kind.
The rest of this verse kind of ties up the story nicely. So
Yep.
what happens if your fire is then stolen by cannibal tribes and beasts?
So, assuming you lose, well, first of all, again, if you lose to the cannibal tribes, or most likely the beasts, it seems like you wouldn't need to worry about fire. But let's assume that somebody escaped and ran off. Well, then you do the whole thing again. So, I mean, yes, in a way, it does portray the fact that, frankly, for most humans still living and have ever lived, like life is a struggle. Life is about maintaining life. It's not just something that's handed to you. It's not as easy as going to space in your rich man rocket ship. No, it's a struggle. Like you might not even get enough calories to eat. You might die of exposure in the night. Being a human being is hard for the most part, and we should appreciate what we have. But yeah, fucking quest for fire bullshit. D. I'm gonna give it a D. It has some redeeming qualities, but it gets a D, and that's the grade. D-. Strong D-.
Thanks for listening to Podcast Them Down. You can find Burning Shadows, ISENMOR, and recently vacated graves on Bandcamp, as well as Facebook, along with Fade to Black Metallica Tribute and Podcast Them Down itself. Until next time, keep it metal.